No. Have you ever had like a really bad day? Like maybe you start of summer, you're planning on going to the pool, and then it rains and you can't go. It'd be kind of a bad day. No, not a bad day? Or you're gonna have like this play date and all these friends are gonna come over and play, and you wake up and you're sick. And you don't get to spend the day with all of your friends. Kind of a bad day, right? Last Halloween was a really bad day? Yeah. There are times, and us adults sometimes have a saying for that when something really bad happens that we didn't plan. Sometimes we say, oh, that's the pits. All right? You might not have heard that. It's kind of an older saying. My parents said it a lot. I don't know if I've ever used it. But it happens. People say it. Oh, that's the pits. Oh, yeah, or oh, bummer. That's a bummer, right? That's probably more your word. But you know what? We're going to hear a story today about a guy, Joseph, who we kind of talked about last week, who's having a really bad day. And he ends up in a pit. It's really the pits. Now let's listen to the scripture.
This is a reading from Genesis chapter 37, verses 2 through 24. This is the story of the family of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was shepherding the flock with his brothers. He was a helper to the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. And Joseph brought a bad report to them to their father. Now Israel loved Joseph more than any other of his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he had made him a long robe with sleeves. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all the other brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Once Joseph had a dream, and when he told it to his brothers, they hated him even more. He said to them, "Listen to this dream that I dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Suddenly, my sheaf rose and stood upright. Then your sheaves gathered around it and bowed down to my sheaf." His brothers said to him, "Are you indeed to reign over us? Are you indeed to have domain over us?" So they hated him even more because of his dreams and his words. He had another dream and told it to his brothers, saying, "Look, I have had another dream. The sun, the moon, and the 11 stars were bowing down to me." But when he told it to his father and his brothers, his father rebuked him and said to him, "What kind of dream is it that you have had? Shall we indeed come, I, your mother, and your brothers, and bow to the ground before you?" So his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Now his brothers went to pasture their father's flock near Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, Are not your brothers pasturing the flock at Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." He answered, "Here I am." So he said to him, "Go now, see if it is well with your brothers and with the flock, and bring word back to me." So he sent him from the valley of Hebron. He came to Shechem, and a man found him wandering in the fields. The man asked him, "What are you seeking?" "I am seeking my brothers," he said. "Tell me, please, where are they pasturing the flock?" The man said, "They have gone away, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.'" So Joseph went after his brothers and found them at Dothan. They saw him from a distance, and before he came near to them, they conspired to kill him. They said to one another, "Here comes the dreamer. Come now, let us kill him and throw him into one of the pits. Then we shall say, 'A wild animal has devoured him,' and we shall see what will become of his dreams." But when Reuben heard it, he delivered him out of their hands, saying, "Let us not take his life." Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, throw him into this pit here in the wilderness, and lay no hand on him, that he might rescue him out of their hand and restore him to his father." So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the robe with the long sleeves that he wore, and they took him and threw him into a pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it.
Hear what the Spirit is saying to the church. The story was kind of long, wasn't it? And maybe a little scary, right? Like there's a plot to kill their brother, throw him in a pit. And here's what I want you guys to know. Joseph's okay. Joseph gets out of the pit. Him and his brother start getting along again. But here's what I want you to remember. Is sometimes when things are the pits, or we're having a really bad day, or we're just sad, or somebody's treated us poorly, I want you to remember that you're not alone because God is with you. Do you guys remember that? And those times when things are really bad, to remember that God is with you. All right? You can follow Miss Jennifer to Children's Church or go back to your chairs. So if you get the E alive and happen to have read the blurb that I wrote this week, you know that I think the story of Joseph reads like a 1980s primetime soap opera. It's complete with family drama, suspense, unexpected twists and turns, and even cliffhangers. If you've ever watched, say, Dallas or Knots Landing, then you know leading up to the show, they ran these 15-minute promos. And it always went something like, tonight on Dallas. And then Joseph's brothers' jealousy reaches its breaking point, and they take action, putting Joseph's life in danger. The screen would show Joseph's brothers conspiring, and you'd hear one of them say, "We should kill him." And then you'd cut to a scene of Joseph's brothers with his coat. And then the camera would pan to the pit, and you'd see Joseph laying in the pit, motionless, with his eyes closed. You wouldn't know if he was dead or alive. And when it came time for the show to begin, you'd hear that same narrator's voice, and it would say something like, "Last week on Dallas." Jacob continued to play favorites, giving a lavish coat as a gift to his favorite son, Joseph, sparking jealousy in his older brothers. Joseph's arrogance and tattletelling ways caused a rift in the family. It would cut to a scene of Joseph's brothers saying awful things about him and his coat. There'd be a shot of Joseph's sister and his three mothers in the home. Then we'd cut back to Joseph and the older brothers. And finally, the narrator would say, trouble was brewing. The older brothers' hate grew. Cue theme song and opening credits. Now this morning we begin with Joseph in his coat again, the symbol of his otherness, of him being different than the other children of his father. The older brothers were jealous of Joseph, but I imagine they soothed themselves and stroked their egos with the fact that he was still their helper, and they could boss him around. Now, we can probably imagine, or maybe some of us know from a bit of experience, what this might be like. At first, one brother yells, "Hey, favorite, come pick up my walking stick." Then another intentionally kicks over a bucket of water and says, "I'm sorry, I'm such a klutz, I spilled the water. Hey, Joseph, go to the well and get some more." And as Joseph heads off, another brother quickly adds, "Don't get that pretty coat all dirty." And finally, another brother screams, "Be careful, Dad might not love you anymore if you ruin that coat. It was expensive." And then they laugh and laugh and laugh. The brothers' hate grew. Out here in the field, they're in charge, and nothing, not even some dumb coat, was going to change that. Well, until Joseph dreams. And Joseph dreams big. Joseph dreams of a different kind of world. Now, people back then, they didn't think about dreams the same way we do now. They gave a little more weight to dreams. They understood them to be more like premonitions. So when Joseph decides to tell his brothers about this dream, the one where his sheaf rises up and theirs gathers around and bow down to him, their reaction is, well, predictable and sarcastic. Are you going to reign over us? Are you to have dominion over us? The brothers' hate grew. Then Joseph, who is either arrogant or clueless, I can't decide which, decides to tell his brothers and his father about this new dream. A dream where the moon and the sun and all of the stars bow down to his star. Now his father rebukes him. "What kind of dream is this that you have had? Shall we indeed come I and your mother and your brothers, and bow down to the ground before you? The older brother's hate grew. I imagine they couldn't get their little brother's dreams out of their heads. Maybe they thought of all the ways they had done him wrong, the ways they had tormented Joseph the way that older brothers do. Maybe they feared that if these dreams came to fruition, Joseph would have his revenge on them. They probably talked about it together when they were out in the field alone, deciding what it meant, stoking each other's anger and hate over days, weeks, possibly months. The older brother's hate grew. Their hate grew so strong that when Joseph, at his father's request, finally shows up at Dothan to check on them, they have not only decided to mock him by calling him the dreamer or the master of dreams, but they've plotted to kill him the moment they see him coming. Now, I've experienced some sibling rivalry in my life, but this is clearly going too far. Now, it's not like Joseph taunts his brothers with his dream. He's not running around saying, "Nanny, nanny, boo, boo, you'll bow down to me too." And it's not like he provides the interpretation for them. No, they've interpreted it as is his father. And he doesn't demand that they bow down right then and there. So why take such extreme action? Why plot to kill him? The older brother's hate grew. Now, we often think about dreams as universal and simply how our brains process our days or our lives as we sleep. But we can dream while we're awake. See, I once read that dreams are deep yearnings of the mind and heart. They are imaginative prayers of the human soul in the spirit and occur in the space between what is and what ought to be. Of course, this is what we dream every week when we pray the Lord's Prayer. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, I've also heard if your dream just confirms what already is, rubber stamping the norm, pouring out a blessing on the socio-political empire of the day, it's not God's dream. Because God inverts our human way of doing things, flipping it on its head. The last shall be first. The least are the greatest. The weak are the strong. The foolish are the wise. To go up, you go down. To have life, you have to die. Now, there are many people throughout history who are this type of dreamer with this kind of dream. Nelson Mandela, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Gustavo Gutierrez, to name a few. But the most well-known for a dream that inverts our human way of doing things is probably the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. He proclaimed, "I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places shall be made plain, and the crooked places shall be made straight. And the glory of the Lord will be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together." But everyone can't handle these types of dreams. So like the older brothers, some will find ways to defy or ignore or hijack them, turning the dream and the dreamer into something they were never intended to be, attempting to extinguish hope. It seems that Joseph's dreams have caused hate to mix with fear. And now the older brothers can only see what they hate. They no longer see their little brother coming. They don't even call him by his name. No, Joseph has become the dreamer to them. He has become the embodiment of what they hate. He symbolizes a challenge to their power and their place as the elder brothers. The brothers' hate grew. The brothers despise Joseph. They can't stomach the idea that change is coming and that he will not be their helper forever. How dare he challenge the status quo? Joseph has now become a type, the dreamer, the one who represents oppression. His brothers see Joseph as one who is out of touch with reality and dreaming of power. Their hate has blinded them to who Joseph really is. Their brother, a fellow human being, someone created in the image of God. They can only mock him as the dreamer. And as long as they only see him as this, then they feel justified in carrying out their plot to kill him. And more importantly, killing that dangerous dream. The movement from family to enemy, from human to dehumanized, that Joseph's brothers make happens quickly in our story. But it's not just part of a story in a book written a long, long time ago. It's our story. Reverend Dr. King and other civil rights activists were labeled a mob, communists, and told they should be happy with what they have. A quick scroll through any social media feed reveals post after post, tweet after tweet, and meme after meme of our brothers and sisters from other mothers and fathers being reduced to only what some people, maybe even what we, don't like or even hate about them, or those who look like them, talk like them, or hold similar views to them. We might not even know them, but somehow we know they're not one of us. Their otherness is enough to justify our laughing, sharing, hating, or silence. And once we've reduced someone to a something, cruelty and violence isn't far behind. So it is with both human history and Joseph's brothers. 3 years after Dr. King stood on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial and proclaimed, "I have a dream," a Gallup poll found only 33% of Americans had positive feelings about him. 2 years later, in 1968, he was assassinated. The brothers' hate grew. The brothers planned to kill Joseph, get that special coat, and lie to their father. But then Reuben sees an opportunity. I don't know if it was because his father rebuked Joseph for his dream, or if he just saw an opportunity to gain favor with his father. Maybe Reuben just couldn't stomach murder. Whatever the reason, Reuben convinces the others to modify the plan. Just throw him in the pit so that he, Reuben, might rescue him and restore him to their father. So when Joseph arrives, the brothers strip him of his coat and they throw him in the dry, empty pit. Despite his protests and his begging, they've stripped him of his royalty and forced him to bow down to them, to be positioned beneath them. There's no way they can bow down to him now. Joseph's in the pit, but the dream and the dreamer are still alive. And spoilers, Joseph doesn't give up on dreams. In fact, he becomes an interpreter of them. And one of his dreams does come to fruition. Joseph's story is far from over, just like our story is far from over. Now, we may feel like we've been thrown into the pit. The decisions of people in power may take direct aim at our dreams. But what I realized this week is that the pit is a place of decision. It's a place where seeds of hate can be planted or dreams can be continued. Even if death occurs in the pit before the dream is realized, because none of us are alone in the pit. Joseph is not alone there. You are not alone there. I am not alone there. The giver of dreams is with us. God is with us. It is for this very reason that I choose to continue to dream of the day when we realize what it means to be the beloved community, to mutually love and learn. I will continue dreaming of a world without racism, sexism, classism, homophobia, Islamophobia, or xenophobia. A world free of hate, greed, and dehumanization. A world without hunger, without violence, without corruption. A world where every child is valued, loved, clothed, sheltered, and fed. A world where wealth isn't something to be hoarded, but generously shared. I dream of a church that is truly inclusive. I dream of living out our baptismal vows, to accept the freedom and power God gives us to resist evil, injustice, and oppression in whatever forms they present themselves. I dream of truly loving my neighbor as myself. And I dream that humanity will one day realize their interconnectedness and that violence done to one is violence done to all. Like any dreamer, I'm not innocent and I'm not perfect. And I know not all my dreams, maybe not even any of my dreams, will be realized in this lifetime. But I dare to join the generations of dreamers, those that came before me and those that will come after me, standing in the now and proclaiming the not yet, being an instrument of peace, sowing love where there is hate, pardon where there is injury, faith where there is doubt, light in the darkness, and joy where there is sadness. By doing this, I dream of being able to say that hate isn't growing. Will you continue dreaming too?